Thank you all for joining us today. I am Caitlin Giles McCormick here with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Today's session is an informational overview on NJEDA's CSIT SBIR STTR Direct Financial Assistance Program. And we'll get into it. If you don't know what all of those letters mean, we'll get into it shortly. But the goal of this program and the eligible applicants is pretty specific. So if you aren't eligible, please keep in mind some of your partners that might be eligible, and make sure to check out the many other programs that NJEDA provides. And we'll be dropping lots of links in the chat as we go forward. Now, to officially dive into the content of today's presentation, I'm going to shift things over to CSIT Program Officer Frances Keel. Frances, go ahead.
Thank you, Caitlin. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the informational webinar for the CSIT New Jersey SBIR STTR Direct Financial Assistance Program Pilot Round 5. I am excited to share this program with you today and look forward to answering any questions you might have. So let's jump right in. Our agenda today will be as follows. We will have a brief program overview, talk a little bit about the submission process and eligibility criteria, then discuss the required documents, terms and conditions, important details, and finally a review of the timeline. So let's talk a little bit about the program. The CSIT Direct Financial Assistance Program enhances the state's innovation economy by providing financial support to small businesses seeking to or participating in the Federal SBIR or STTR program. What's exciting about this year is that we will be accepting applications on a rolling basis. We recognize that the federal application process takes place throughout the year, and we wanted to ensure that applicants have ample opportunities to apply for our supplemental grants. So there will be no application deadline. Once the application portal opens in mid-November, applications will be accepted on a rolling basis until the program funds are exhausted. We will be offering 2 grant opportunities, and applicants can only apply for one. A $25,000 direct funding grant will be available for companies that have been awarded a Phase 1, Fast Track, or Direct to Phase 2 Federal SBIR or STTR grant within the last 2 years from the issuance of the Notice of Funding. These funds are yours to use as you wish. It doesn't matter if you have already finished your project. If your award was made in the last 2 years, you could use the funding to help finish up some reporting, further support your research efforts, or assist you with developing a Phase 2 application. Additionally, we will be offering a $50,000 bridge grant for those applicants that have submitted a Phase 2 application for the Federal SBIR STTR program in the last 2 years from the issuance of the Notice of Funding availability, but have not yet received an award. These funds can be used to keep the company operational as you wait for your federal decision. Again, the funds are yours to use as you wish. So how much money are we talking about? Well, the program budget is $875,000, and we plan on awarding 25 grants for both the direct funding and the bridge funding combined. The program has 3 objectives: increase the success rate of New Jersey grant applicants seeking federal funding for the SBIR STTR programs, reduce the financial burden for small New Jersey companies that have won a Phase 1, Fast Track, or Direct to Phase 2 award of the Federal SBIR STTR program, and increase the success and maximize growth of small New Jersey companies in moving from Phase 1 to Phase 2 of the SBIR federal program. Now let's talk a little bit about the application itself. Each applicant is required to set up a login with a username and password, which will be used to access their application. This diagram illustrates the application processes. Application Manager is your welcome screen and provides an overview of the program. The eligibility questions will determine whether your company is eligible to apply for this grant based on your answers to some initial questions. All the eligibility requirements are also detailed in the Notice of Funding. The company information will give a brief description of your company and provide basic background information such as address, primary contact, where the company was established, location, and etc. You will also be asked a series of diversity, equity, and inclusion questions. They have no impact on eligibility or award. They are optional and are used for collecting relevant data. The next section touches on the company's principal investigator. Again, basic contact information, address, phone number, location will be collected. This will be the primary person to contact regarding more details on the project. The most vital part of the application is the project information section. This is where we request more details on your awarded SBIR Phase 1 project or proposed Phase 2 project. It is important to be as descriptive as possible in this section. The legal questionnaire will be a series of legal questions about the company and any affiliates. You should review these yes or no questions very carefully. The required documents section lists all required documents that must be uploaded and attached to your application. I will go over these in detail later in the presentation, sorry. Finally, once your application is complete and all required documents have been uploaded, you will be able to submit your application. Once an application is submitted, you cannot go back and edit or change or upload additional documents. It is very important that you take your time to complete the application. So far, we've talked about the program, its objectives, and budget. We have also gone over the application. Now we will go over what happens after your application has been submitted. Once you have completed and submitted your application, CSIT will begin a document completeness review. If any documents are missing, you will receive a resubmission letter by email and will have 10 business days to submit the missing documentation. Applicants will be given 30 business days from the issuance of the resubmission letter to submit a missing tax clearance. After all the documents have been received and are deemed complete, we will conduct an internal review. Once this review is completed, the executive director will approve the grant award. As I mentioned earlier, awards will be made on a rolling basis until funds are depleted. So what's the catch? How do you get this free money? Well, let's talk a little bit about the eligibility criteria. First, for the direct funding, most importantly, you cannot have received more than 5 Federal SBIR or STTR Phase 1, Fast Track, or Direct to Phase 2 awards combined over the lifetime of your company. You must be registered and authorized to do business in New Jersey. This is evidenced by a tax clearance certificate. The certificate must list CSIT as the agency. This selection is made from a drop-down menu when you download your certificate. All certificates listing other state agencies will be rejected. Your company must have at least 1 full-time worker based on a minimum 35-hour work week. The worker can be paid or unpaid and includes owners and founders. 50% or more of cumulative hours worked by all workers must be conducted in New Jersey. This includes founders and contractors and is calculated on a full-time equivalent basis of 35 hours per week. The primary place of performance on the Federal SBIR STTR grant or contract award must be a New Jersey address. The company must have received a Federal SBIR or STTR Phase 1, Fast Track, or Direct to Phase 2 grant within the 2 years prior to the issuance of the notice of funding. Your company must also pass sister agency reviews. We conduct internal reviews with the Department of Labor and the Department of Environmental Protection to ensure that you are not in default with any other previous grants. The eligibility criteria for the bridge funding is similar to that of the direct funding with a few changes. The company cannot have more than 5 Federal SBIR, STTR Phase 1, Fast Track, or Direct to Phase 2 awards combined, like the direct funding, but they also cannot have won 4 Federal SBIR or STTR awards throughout the lifetime of the company. You must still be registered and authorized to conduct business in New Jersey by getting a tax clearance certificate. You must have at least 1 full-time worker, paid or unpaid, including owners and founders. 50% or more of all the cumulative hours worked by all workers must be conducted in New Jersey. The primary place of performance for the Federal SBIR award must be a New Jersey address. Your company must be a previous Federal SBIR Phase 1 or contract award recipient within the last 2 years from the notice of funding. You must have submitted a Federal Phase 2 application, and you must not have received a response to your application. And you must also pass our sister agency reviews. Now let's talk a little bit about the required documentation. As I mentioned previously, you must submit required documents with your application. For the direct funding grant, the following documents must be included with your application submission. Your Federal Phase 1 Fast Track or Direct to Phase 2 award or contract from a participating federal agency dated within the last 2 years from the notice of funding availability. Your Federal SBIR STTR proposal, Fast Track Phase 1 or Direct to Phase 2. Employee verification information, such as a W-2, 1099, or K-1 or shareholders agreement, or something that validates that the employee works for the company. Your most recent internal payroll documentation. This is usually generated internally and shows your employees and tax deduction information. You must have a New Jersey tax clearance certificate listing CSIT as the main agency. You must provide a signed CSIT certification, and you must complete the CSIT legal debarment questionnaire. The required documentation for the bridge funding is similar to that of the direct funding, but a few additional items are needed. You must submit your Federal Phase 1 SBIR award or contract within the last 2 years. You must provide a Phase 1 final report and proof of acceptance, and you must provide proof of a Federal Phase 2 submittal. The rest of the items are similar to the direct funding award, but you have to supply employee verification, submission of your most recent internal payroll information, submission of a current New Jersey tax clearance certificate listing CSIT as the main agency, submission of a signed CSIT certification, and completion of the debarment questionnaire. I know I've presented a lot of information this afternoon, but we will have time to go over questions at the end. If selected as a recipient, an economic impact report must be submitted for a period of 2 years upon completion of the program. Some of the information we collect includes a brief description of the status of your project, if the company has grown, whether in square feet or number of employees, if you have developed any intellectual property or patents, if you applied for a Phase 2 from a Phase 1, and if you received a Phase 2 award. Additionally, you must conduct at least 50% of your work in New Jersey for a period of 2 years. Failure to comply will require you to repay the grant. Also, as discussed earlier, you must submit, sorry about that. I want to leave you with a few final thoughts. It is very important that you read the notice of funding and the frequently asked questions. A lot of your questions can be answered by reading these documents. If you have additional questions after reading the notice of funding or the frequently asked questions, please send an email to us at csitsbir@njeda.gov. All questions will be answered via the frequently answered questions format and updated on the CSIT website. As I discussed earlier, you must submit a signed application certification as part of your required documentation. You have the option to sign the application certification electronically or follow the instructions in the notice of funding and online portal to download a copy, sign, and send to the address indicated. Do not wait until the last minute to submit this document. I also want to reiterate that you will have 10 business days after receipt of a resubmission letter to submit any missing documentation after our initial documentation review, and you will have 30 business days after receipt of a resubmission letter to submit your tax clearance certificate. Failure to submit your documents in these time periods will render your application incomplete and it will not be considered for funding. One last item regarding the tax clearances. It may take some time to get the clearance, so don't wait until the last minute to apply. You can start working on your tax clearance now. They are valid for 6 months, so by the time you are ready to submit your application and all your required documents, your tax clearance will be ready to go. So the timeline is we will conduct the informational webinar, which we are doing today. We are hosting, the application portal is set to open in mid-November. Once the portal opens, we will be accepting applications on a rolling basis, and awards will be made until the budget is depleted. I want to thank you today for joining us. I hope you found the session informative, and we have motivated you to submit an application for the Direct Financial Assistance Program. Please look for our application portal, www.njeda.gov/CSIT, to open mid-November, and please feel free to submit any additional questions to CSIT SBIR@njeda.gov. All questions will be answered through the website via our frequently asked questions. Additionally, NJEDA offers many other funding opportunities, and they can be found on their website, www.njeda.gov. And I will ask that we take any questions.
Yeah, it does look like several have come through.
Okay.
Francis, I'm not sure if you're able to see those or if you want me to read those out that have come through.
I think Maku was going to read those out.
Yeah, I can take it.
Go for it.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Francis. So we do have a few questions. I'll just go through them here. Some of them are mostly eligibility questions. Again, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to throw it in the Q&A chat, in the Q&A or the chat. If we don't get to all of your questions, we will be updating our FAQ document, so you will still be able to find your questions and answers in our FAQ documents, which will be uploaded to our website. So the first question is it too late to apply for a phase 1 if you have not been granted an award previously?
So it sounds like they have not received a phase 1 federal award, and they want to know if they can apply for our CSIT New Jersey award. And the answer is no. You have to be a recipient of a phase 1 Fast Track or Direct to Phase 2 award in order to apply for our direct funding $25,000 grant.
Right. If a company, let's just see, a company has received a clean tech R&D voucher grant within the past year, are you eligible for the Fast Track SBIR funding? So there might be some confusion, and I just want to make sure that we have maybe you can clarify the difference between our grant as well as the federal grant, and if any of our previous grants affect being able to apply.
Yes, so in order to apply for our subsequent grant program, you have to be a recipient of the Federal SBIR program. So you would have to submit an application to one of the 11 federal agencies that participate in the grant program and be awarded a grant award from one of them. And then you would be able to apply for our application. Whether or not you have a clean tech Catalyst Award or Clean Tech Voucher Award, that doesn't matter. You can still apply for our award.
Can a company receive one CSIT grant per SBIR? And I do want to make sure that everyone on this call knows that this SBIR STTR Direct Financial Grant Program is a CSIT grant. It's not an EDA grant, so you won't find it on their site. It's really solely our program. But can a company receive one grant per SBIR? And I think it's also important to ask, I think you answered this earlier, Francis, that companies can only apply for either one or the other. But can they apply per SBIR federal grants that they may have received? Maybe they have multiple SBIR grants.
I don't think that we allow them to apply for more than one SBIR,
Right,
yeah, at the same time. It's either one or the other, and it's only one.
right, within that 12-month grant cycle.
Yes, yes.
This is, and I could probably help with this one, is the TAC fee contract eligible for this program? That contract is eligible for our SBIR STTR program. So if you did receive that particular, that's a, kind of companies that are between a program for companies that are between a phase 1 and a phase 2. Within these are kind of defense contracts, you are eligible. So, feel free to go ahead and apply, and we're happy to talk you through the application process. Another question, Francis, came up previously. Companies that had a state employee that had more than 1% ownership were unable to apply for our grants. Has this legislation been changed, and can they now apply?
Yes, the legislation has been changed, and you can now apply for our grants.
Perfect. Let's see here. Okay. So again, we have another question, and I think we've answered it earlier. Can you apply for both the bridge and the direct funding, or can you only apply for one?
Yes, you can
And
only apply for one or the other.
let me just see, there are a few questions that asked similar questions. Is a Delaware registered company having its operations? 100% of our employees are in New Jersey. So are they eligible? So yes, you can be, well, you could be incorporated in Delaware, but you have to be a registered company in New Jersey. And Francis, I think you also mentioned the 50%
Yes.
eligibility requirement, if you want to restate that.
Yes, you have to maintain 50% of your cumulative hours worked in New Jersey by all workers.
Right. So I said regarding the timeline, which is opening in November, with applicants who submit bridge funding applications in May of 2024, because that is when some phase 2 applications are submitted, be in a disadvantage since budget will be depleted. So maybe you can speak a little bit to our process for when budgets are being depleted, and how we basically get approval to refund the program.
Yes, we do receive additional funding at the beginning of the second quarter of the year, and we will be adding additional funds to the program as the year progresses. So it will depend on the number of applications that we receive, as well as what our budget stipulations will be for the following year.
Yeah, so again, they don't have to worry, as funding is, as our budget kind of depletes, as we're making these awards, we have the opportunity to go back to our board to add additional dollars to this program. Are phase 1 SBIR contracts covered with this grant? The answer is yes.
Yes.
If you do have a phase 1, you are eligible to contract, you are eligible to apply. We are in Philly right now. This company is in Philly, and they're planning to move to New Jersey. Are they eligible to apply at this moment?
You would have to be a New Jersey registered business at the time of application and be able to secure a New Jersey tax clearance certificate.
So what would you say, Francis, has been the kind of acceptance rates for our 4 rounds? And we can't be too specific, but from our past rounds, I would say that because these awards are based on companies having received the federal award, it's almost a given that if you have received the federal award and you meet the eligibility requirements, you are automatically accepted for a grant.
Yes, I would say that is correct, Maku. I would say that all of the completed applications, meaning those that have all their documents submitted and completed the review process, were awarded.
Perfect. Let's see. So there are a few questions on, whether if, if they've received a phase 2 grant, can they apply? There's also other questions if they've received specific phase 2 grants from things like the small business emergency assistance loans, can they apply? So again, this is all tied to the Federal SBIR STTR program. So if you've received a grant through any of those agencies that Francis mentioned, you are eligible. If there are other federal grants that you have received that fall outside of the SBIR STTR realm, they are not qualified for this matching grant, and we're happy to talk with you all on a case-by-case basis to make sure that your grant really applies to these matching dollars.
Also, if they've already received a phase 2 award, they're not eligible either. They have to be in between. They have to have submitted a phase 2 application and waiting for an approval from a federal agency.
Perfect. So a company, so I think you just answered, a company just mentioned that they have a notice of intent to fund a phase 2. Can we apply for the bridge grant, which is the $50K? So this is a notice a notice of intent to fund. We can probably think through this. By the time we launch this program, the question is whether or not you will have been clearly receiving the award. So we would have to see within the time frame if you have if you have received the award, then you will not be eligible. Where is there a list of federal grants? Francis, can they search on the SBIR.gov site?
Yes, they can go to SBIR.gov and they'll see a list of all the agencies that have available SBIR grants.
Okay, and how long does it take to receive an award from the time of application submission?
Because we will be accepting the applications on a rolling basis, it shouldn't take more than a few weeks to maybe a month to actually be notified that you've received an award.
Okay, so not long as long as you have all the documents.
Yes, as long as you have all the documents, your tax clearance certificate. Your tax clearance certificate is probably the one that will take the longest to obtain. But if you start working on that now, then like I said, by the time you submit your application, that will be ready to go, and that will help move the process along.
So again, there are a few eligibility questions on when is a company able to apply. Again, if you have received previous SBIR, STTR financial assistance, if you received the previous grant from us, that is fine, but you do have to, if you're reapplying again for our grant, you have to have met again our eligibility requirements, and it has to be for a you have to have met all of our eligibility requirements, of course. And again, we're happy to talk further about that. Where can you apply for the Phase 1 awards? Francis, our links will be on the program page of the CSIT website.
Yes, www.njeda.gov/CSIT.
Perfect. And for those that have specific questions in terms of company structure, you know, I think it might be helpful to email us, and we can put our email in the chat. But Francis, maybe if you want to kind of restate the eligibility requirements in terms of how many individuals need to be within the company and how many full-time workers also need to be a part of the company.
Sure. You must be registered and authorized to do business in New Jersey by evidence of a tax clearance certificate. You must have at least one full-time worker based on a minimum of 35-hour work week, and the worker can be paid or unpaid. 50% or more of the cumulative hours worked by all workers must be conducted in New Jersey. This includes founders and contractors and is calculated on a full-time equivalent basis of 35 hours per week. The primary place of performance for the Federal SBIR, STTR grant or contract award must be a New Jersey address.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
the. Mhm.
Okay, let's see. I think we've touched on most of these. I will also say there's a few, again, if you are in that Phase 3 category, you know, if you've received a Phase 2, if you've heard back from the Phase 2, you're not eligible. Also, if you're kind of in that Phase 3 category where you've gotten kind of a contract, again, you're out of, you know, out of the range of our grants. These are for, again, companies, as Francis mentioned, that have received the Phase 1, they've applying for the Phase 2, but have not heard back. And you've also received a certain amount of SBIR contracts.
Yes.
Let's see, I think a bridge grant while receiving. And we will share, we're happy to share the link on the chat here for our site. I'll go ahead and put our program pages for the SBIR program will be up in a few days. So just give us a moment. You'll be able to find information on the grant as well as some supportive documents in the next few days. But for now, I will put up our website on the chat so everyone has it. I will also include the SBIR Federal SBIR.gov site for those that are interested in taking a look at that as well. So can an awardee of a direct assistance grant be transferred to the Bridge Fund program later?
No, that would require a separate application. You can't automatically transfer from our direct state funding grant to the bridge funding grant.
And I see that there's a few kind of outlier questions around other loan programs. Again, this is a specific CSIT program, the SBIR STTR program. The NJEDA, which is a sister agency to the CSIT, has other great grant and loan and tax incentive programs that if you are looking for other supports, you are welcome to go on the njeda.com site and you'll be able to .gov site, I'm sorry, and you'll be able to find other programs that apply to your company.
Mm-hmm.
And we're happy to stick their link in the chat as well. So we have a few more minutes for any other questions that we have not addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Caitlin, for putting the EDA link in the chat there. I'll give folks a few moments here to see if there's anything else that I've missed. That we can help for filling out. So if you do need any assistance for filling out your application, you can email or call Francis or our office, and we will be happy to assist if there is any questions that you may have, or if there are any language barriers. We're happy to walk anyone through the application process or any of the supportive documents that are on our site. So we will put our contact information in the chat box. Francis, if you want to do that quickly.
Okay.
Your email, and please email us if you need any assistance to review any of the documents. So there are a few other questions on what are probably EDA programs here. And we can touch base offline. We'll just make a note of them. Again, the EDA provides a host of other great programs. And we'll just make a note here, and we're happy to connect you with other programs such as the equipment purchase voucher program and so forth.
I also just want to mention too that the New Jersey Small Business Development Center offers support for companies that are applying for SBIR grants, and will also be offering some assistance with writing your grants. That's the New Jersey Small Business Development Center.
So thank you, Francis. If you submit this question, if you submit an application for bridge funding and while waiting, you receive a decision on that phase 2 application, the federal phase 2 application, do you become ineligible and have to rescind your application?
Yes. You would have to notify us that you received a decision on your award.
Yes, you will. Yep. Okay. Okay, I think that covers all of the questions from an eligibility from an eligibility questions to the application process. We have a few more minutes, so we're happy to take any final questions.
Mhm.
I will also say, in addition to the our partnership with the New Jersey Small Business Development Center that assists companies in applying for the federal awards, they also have amazing webinars on their site that includes presentations from representatives from the various federal agencies, talking a little bit about their application process. So we encourage all of you to take a look at the New Jersey NJSBDC site and take a look at some of those videos. They're extremely helpful. Anything in the chat here? I don't see any questions in the chat, and I don't see any more questions in the, oh wait, I think I see. So in the chat, you'll see a few links, a link to the CSIT website. You'll see a link to the SBIR.gov site, which is the federal site that tracks awards that have been given, as well as agencies, by state and so forth. You'll also see links for NJEDA programs, additional programs that you can also apply to. Frances has included her email for those that have specific questions to her. So please check the chat box for all of those important links. Are there other grant opportunities from CSIT that are open to small businesses for research and development projects? Right after this call, we actually have a webinar for our R&D voucher grants, both for clean tech and Catalyst. So it covers all industry areas. So we encourage all of you to join that webinar that will be starting at 3 o'clock. Those grants allows companies to offset the cost of utilizing core research facilities at a host of university research labs and federal labs and nonprofit labs throughout the state. We also have additional seed grants that supports R&D projects. So depending on what your technology is, we have seed grants up to $75,000 for on the clean tech side, and we also have seed grants on the Catalyst side, which are technology, life science, advanced manufacturing, non-retail food and beverage, and on that also it's up to $75,000. And so those seed grants will be launching in the next couple of months. We will absolutely keep everyone updated on those, but feel free again to go on our website. There are a list of grant opportunities. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see all of our grants. We only offer grants. This is non-dilutive funding, so it's great for early stage companies or any companies really that fall within our eligibility requirements, but mostly we work with early stage companies that are still in the R&D space. This is money you don't have to pay back. So it's amazing. So please check out our website for other grant opportunities. The eligibility requirements are going to be listed on our website. So we will be sharing this slide as well on our website. So someone missed the comment on the timeline. Would you please clarify again about the time period between application and decision making? So I believe it was about a month, Francis.
Yes.
If you have all of your documents
Yes.
submitted, make sure you pull together the documents even before you do your application, so
Yes.
you're not missing anything. So we can process this quickly. Okay, I think we are good to go here.
Great. Awesome.
Great. Any final thoughts, Francis, before we close out here?
No, we're just looking forward to getting a lot of applications and giving away lots of money.
That is always great to hear. Again, we're looking to launch this hopefully in mid-November. We're currently working on the applications for this grant. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to email. Do not hesitate to email Francis. We get back to you very quickly. Our responses come back very quickly. So please send us any questions you may have. But again, all of your questions and answers will be on our updated FAQ document, which will be on our website in the next few days, with other program details and support documents. And with that, we just want to thank everyone for joining us today.
Yes.
And we look forward to receiving your questions and your applications.